I'm Dee, and this is Books and Bitches. This is actually my first book review, so I'm quite excited. I've chosen Lauren Groff. She's one of my favorite authors. I'm such a fangirl. I've read all of her books. And for this first book review, I'm going to talk about her 2018 collection of short stories called Florida. It was just recently longlisted in the National Book Awards. So this is her second time, I believe, being longlisted. Previously with Fates and Furies. Obama loves this book. She was also a longlist finalist. And yeah, I love her and I love this book. I'm also biased because I'm from Florida. I live in Miami, and this book spoke a lot to me. So this book is a compilation of 11 short stories, most of them being led by women, strong female leads, or maybe the not so strong. And that's something that I love because everybody does have their weaknesses, or we're not necessarily as strong as we appear to be on the outside. These 11 short stories, they're all linked at some point to the state of Florida. Florida's a weirdo place filled with weirdo people. And being from here or having visited here, there's a part of it that stays with you, that haunts you in a way, that brings you back to it, that keeps you here. And I think that's something that you can see in a lot of these different characters. It's just something I can really be attached to and get into. She says what she means succinctly. In a short story, it's so difficult to do that. For you to have a beginning, middle, and end that lingers with the reader. I found myself marinating over some of these stories for quite a few months after I had read it. I also chose this book as my #1 October read because Halloween, full of creepy stuff, but you know what really is scary? How about existential crises and reality? That shit is scarier to me because it's so real. You're walking around, it could hit or strike at any moment. You could be like, why am I here? What am I doing with my life? That's one of the reasons why this book is so amazing and so creepy, and it'll haunt you. I don't believe that a ghost is gonna pop out of nowhere and like strangle me in the middle of the night. So that kind of stuff, though it is kind of cool and entertaining, that would be really my top choice for the month of October or Halloween. It is terribly true, even if the truth does not comfort, that if you look at the moon for long enough, night after night, as I have, you will see that the old cartoons are correct, that the moon is, in fact, laughing. But it is not laughing at us, we lonely humans, who are far too small and our lives far too fleeting for it to give us any notice at all. Crazy. That's from Ghosts and Empties. That's the opening short story. What I loved most about this one story, it's in this quiet neighborhood. A woman goes out at night. And what I just love is how she thinks about the neighborhood, being how she thinks about just the Florida energy, the Florida habitat that she's in, her surroundings, the humidity, the heat, the insects munching away at the wood and basically breaking everything down, the smell of mold in the streets, in the houses you can't escape, the air conditioning, which is basically breathing the air for us. We're not breathing pure air in our home. It's something mechanical. It's something that reminds us that honestly, you can't really live in this state without technology and modernity, being air conditioners, insecticides, canals, and pesticides for all the termites that are ruining all the infrastructures in the Southeast. Can't really escape it. I wouldn't invest here. I wanted to talk about the last short story called Yport or Yport, in which a woman takes her 2 little boys to a port town in France. She's trying to continue to write a hobby or an interest story that she's been working on and off over the years, off a historical figure, a writer. And it's just, she's an angry woman, filled with questions, not necessarily that open about it. It's just, I don't know, it's just the style of this writer is so amazing. I think she does the young mother or young woman character really well. She gets those microaggressions, maybe passive aggressiveness, really well done and really realistic, I feel. Anyways, that short story, I loved it. A woman trying to escape something, but realizing that there is no escape, even though you're halfway across the world. It'll always catch up with you. You could try to distract yourself with little projects, little thoughts, your own family, children, but you can't outrun truth, reality, and situation, and the truly haunting. Yeah, I just love it, because even though I think a lot of us maybe, we like to think of something in the future, or when I retire, I want to do this, I want to live here, I want to be a hermit in a cave in the mountains so I don't have to be bothered. Honestly, would I really be happy in a cave? I don't think so. I like to entertain and feed all my friends. But anyways, I loved that story, and that was one of the big takeaways for me. So this short story called The Eye Wall, which is quite amazing, and a woman who decides to stay in her home when a hurricane is barreling towards her and the property. And as she's getting wasted off some great vino, she is being visited by all the men that she's ever loved or have ever loved her. And I think that's something very cool if you think about it. In the middle of a hurricane with all that rain, all that flooding, winds, muck, and these men just like come out of the water, mud, seeping through the wet, freaky ass atmosphere. I love it. I love it. I love it. And it's something that's really scary. Is she being haunted by these people? I don't know, but it's worthy of the month of October, I think. This one short story called The Midnight Zone has panthers in it. In the literal sense, but also symbolically. So panther sightings in a campsite in the beginning leads to a woman, a mother, injured because of her injury and how serious it is. She becomes almost an animal in a way, an animal that other people fear or could be predatory in a way. So that's just something I thought it was beautifully written. And that one actually does have a little bit of blood, so ooh, Halloween. There's nothing about this book that I don't think is wonderful and exciting. I got really freaked out reading this story about a graduate student's fall from grace, and not necessarily grace, but a fall. And she feels a little bit of shame, or a lot of shame, when she sees some of the people that she used to fraternize with around her. And like, does she say hello? Does she not? Is it a new life? It's just an amazing work, and it is scary. All of these existential crises and lulls that these characters are feeling, I think, is something haunting. And as I lay awake at night in the quiet of my room, I marinate and think about some of this creepy ass shit, all this existential shit. I loved everything about the book, and that's one of the reasons why I've read all of Lauren Groff's works. I just really like the way she expresses herself, and I love the way I feel when I'm reading these books. I love the roller coasters of emotions with her characters and perspective. And I think she's a really gifted author, and I will probably be following her throughout her entire career like a creepy fangirl. But overall, this book is awesome. Please read it. Pick it up at your local bookstore. You could also audiobook it. I didn't audiobook this one in particular, but Fates and Furies, I audiobooked that and I loved it. I do have a long commute. Being in South Florida, we don't have great public transit. So hour to and from work, I like to connect through audiobooks, and I feel like I read a lot more. So thanks for listening, and yeah, like, subscribe, comment, tell me what you're reading now. Do you have any questions? I'll be more than willing to answer them. So stay tuned. I'll let you guys know what I'm cooking up for next week. Ciao.